Hey there, it's Colby. So it's only a couple more weeks until the new year, which means I'm feeling reflective about the past year. And grateful. Grateful for good times with family and friends. Grateful for spending most of the last year on this podcast with all of you. It's also a time to think about the things you might want to do differently. For me, I've been thinking a lot about how I can give back, to pay forward some of the blessings in my life. So today I want to share an episode from another Washington Post podcast, Try This. Try This is a series of short audio courses hosted by my colleague, Cristina Quinn. Cristina is hilarious, and she loves helping people learn how to improve their lives. Her recent course is about giving. And in this second episode of that series, Cristina talks to the Post's personal finance columnist, Michelle Singletary, about how to build charitable donations into your annual budget, and why it's so important that you do. After you listen, be sure to follow Try This in your podcast app. All right, here's the show.
If you like this episode of Try This, don't miss out on listening to more of the season, along with a very special segment from the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research. To listen to another episode, visit the Try This podcast page on WashingtonPost.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
This season of Try This is brought to you by the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research. Hey, I'm Cristina Quinn. Welcome back to Try This from the Washington Post. This is the second and final class in our course on altruism. In our first class, we spoke to Abigail Marsh about how the easiest way to be more altruistic is to just start. Come up with a plan and go for it. In this class, we're going to learn how to apply all that we learned in episode 1 through a practical financial lens. To help us with that question, I can't think of anyone more practical than this lady.
I'm Michelle Singletary, and I am the personal finance columnist for the Washington Post.
And it's fair to say Michelle has been thinking about money for a while.
I've been cheap since I was a little person. My siblings used to borrow money from me, and I would actually threaten to charge them interest if they didn't pay me back on time. Wow. So I was born to do what I do. It started with me being a business reporter. So I covered bankruptcy and small business and banking. And it honestly, the truth of the matter is I got the column because I talked about how cheap I was and how my grandmother taught me about money. And when my colleagues were going out for lunch, I would fuss at them. And I'm like, I'm going to sit right here, eat my bag lunch. You people go ahead and be crazy and spend all that money.
And your grandmother, she's like sort of a central figure in your columns. Big Mama, right?
That's right. Big Mama. Yeah, she passed away years ago, but she is a central character. I bring her up.
Her legacy lives on.
Yeah, it does.
You know, I have to say, because I love your column, there are times when I am shopping or something and I'm like, oh, Michelle would get mad at me if I would do this. Because you do have sort of like that tough love, no nonsense approach, which is so refreshing because you really do cut through the BS, which is why we wanted you on the show. And that said, you do make sure that there is room for charitable giving. Yeah. Like everybody has room in their wallet for that. And I would love for you to tell us, like, why do you say everyone's budget should include charitable giving?
It's something that I deeply, deeply believe in because my whole existence actually started with charity. My grandmother took me and my siblings in. There was 5 of us. My older sister was 8, I was 4, I had a sister who was 3, and twin brothers who were 2. Our parents had a lot of issues, and my grandmother basically, they were about to send us all off to foster care and split us up. And she said, no, bring them to me. Had it not been for my grandmother rescuing us, where would I be? Maybe not in such a great place. And so that has always motivated me. I have given to charity from the time that I earned money, either through money or my time. And so I do encourage people as part of their budget to build a charitable giving. Now, what I do say as a caveat is that you give out of your abundance, you give out of your extra. So you make sure you've taken care of your necessities, roof over your head, food on the table, your savings, and then you allocate that to charitable giving. And so for my husband and I, we tithe to our local church. My husband's a deacon. I'm not, because I cuss a lot. So So we tithe 10% of our income gross.
I think before we move further, though, I think it would be really helpful if you could explain what tithing is.
Sure. So for my faith, I'm a Baptist, which used to be you in church all day long, not necessarily anymore. But it means that you give 10% of your increase. And so it's from the scripture. But basically, whatever you earn, the first 10%, the fruits of your labor, goes to giving. And in this case, your local church. So you can talk about it in the spiritual realm, but in a practical realm, it means that you are supporting the efforts of your church to serve the community. So my tithes, 10% of my income, goes to those efforts.
I think that's extraordinary. And I think that that's also really inspiring because, like you said, you have to prioritize the basic necessities, right? You got to make sure you're paying your rent, paying your utilities, groceries, all that stuff. But it sounds like you're saying you're doing that before you do those things because you've already mapped out your budget. So you already know what you have to work with.
Right. When you're a tither, that means you're left with 90%. It makes you real tight with your money because you want to make sure that 90% is doing what it needs to do. And I think it imposes discipline. If you know that a key part of your budget is going to charity, I think that sets a different stage for your budget. And it introduces a level of gratitude that I didn't get to where I am just by my own divine. There were people along the way who helped me, who opened doors, who coached me, mentored me, let me cry on their shoulder. So it just puts you in a posture of saying, I am grateful for what I have, and I want to give back as part of this whole of earnings. We talk about people making sure that they have savings and they're investing for their retirement and sending their kids to college. And in that mix should be, how am I helping other people? One of my brothers, who has since passed away, had epilepsy. So I gave to the Epilepsy Foundation in Maryland, and I served on their board. One of my daughters just got recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so we're probably going to add that to our charitable giving.
I love that. And so for somebody who isn't a member of a church or any sort of congregation in general, they can still take on that philosophy and that approach because it really is at the end of the day. I mean,
that's right.
You can take the 10% and pay it forward.
I mean, I sometimes look at people's budget and they'll go, I can't save or I can't really give. And you look at that they're eating out. They've got 4 or 5 streaming services. And I just, you get to choose, right? I'm not telling you have to give. I think that's a personal decision. But I do know that there is a lot of need. And so around the holidays, everybody says, I want to serve in a soup kitchen. I want to give. But you know what? People hungry all year long, y'all.
All year long.
All
I know,
year
that's
long.
true.
People need clothes all year long. People need formula all year long. And while it's wonderful that people think about it this time of year when we're recording this around Thanksgiving and leading into the Christmas and Hanukkah and all those, but you got to make this a year-long passion to help people, I think.
Commit to the bit.
That's right.
What about people who have debt, but they still want to give? Like, they want to make sure that they pay off those bills, but, make it less about them. How do you strike that balance?
So I wear 2 hats. So I'm going to have to answer that question in case my pastor listens to this. You'll watch this. So I have 2 hats. I'm a ministry leader. So as a woman of faith, we believe that you tithe even when you have debt. That means you've got to really have a tighter budget to do both. And so when I talk to, secular, maybe you're not religious, you definitely, again, want to take care of the most important things. You don't want the creditor because you owe your creditors and you should do all that you can to pay that back. So you have to incorporate it in your budget. So maybe, you put the priority in terms of paying your bills and your debts, and maybe you only have $1 left or $10. Every charity I know will accept whatever you want to give at that level. And if you really don't have it, and many people don't, you don't even maybe have enough for maybe all of your rent and food. And then you can give of your time. And I think that's just
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Yeah, because time is money. Time is valuable. And yeah, I mean, if there are ways to give that don't involve cash, like you said, if you're cash strapped, you can barely afford these bills. There's
Yeah.
need year round, right? So what are other ways you can give?
Yeah.
What are your suggestions?
So I hope I'm not sounding too preachy to people, but I personally,
Well, you are the wife of a deacon, so
That's true,
just
right?
own it. Just own it.
That's true, right? I actually got a T-shirt too that says.
And a ministry leader, so
that's
it's okay.
right.
Yeah.
And I run a financial ministry at my church, so I walk this walk. I personally think that everybody should have some of their time devoted to giving to a charity or working. And I have believed that since I was a teenager. When I was a single woman and just had a little dog, I used to visit a nursing home with my dog because they found that a lot of times people in nursing homes, they don't necessarily connect with people, but they connect with animals. So I would take my dog to the nursing home a couple of times a week. And some of the residents would talk to me and the dog, and some would pay me no attention and only focus on the dog, and that was okay with me.
Leave the dog with me.
Right. And so I just think that you should, if you're a parent, that part of the activities of your children should involve charitable giving, either through their allowance or their time. So I just think it's important, particularly if you've got children. And my children were required to serve in something, food kitchen, giving back, teaching, tutoring, whatever. And so I just think that you ought to carve out time in your life. You're running your kids to all these soccer practices, and you're going to the movies, and you're sitting and binge watching stuff. And that's fine. That feeds your soul in a different way. But my goodness, what a difference it would make if everybody carved out some amount of time to give to others.
Right. Yeah. It's funny you say that. Just this week, we were, my husband and I were just going through like the pantry and thinking like, oh yeah, let's focus on food donation. And I said like, we need to make sure that we take our kids with us when we do this, so they actually see like, this is what we're doing and this is why. So I love hearing you say that. Like, yes, have your kids basically normalize it, right? From an early age.
I love that. That's right. Normalize the giving of your time and your money. If they see you do it, because kids, they're really sharp. You go like, oh, you need to do this. But if they don't see you doing it, they probably won't,
No, it's so true. I think for so long and for so many years, religious organizations were often at the helm of charitable donations. And, there are fewer people practicing faith than decades ago, right? Where do you suggest people go to find out where they can give?
Well, lots of us have employers who have projects in the community. So you can look around and see if there are any things that your company does. And so I would say start and see if you belong to a community group. Honestly, you could just Google charitable work and your neighborhood and all kinds of things.
It's called the internet, Cristina.
Right. No, but it's a good question because people kind of, if it's not in their face and it's not coming to them, they may not think about it. But if you make it part of who you are and your personal mission, I sort of think, I guess I probably do have a personal mission and vision statement for myself. And again, it stems back to my gratitude of my grandmother raising me and all the people who stepped into my life to help me when my parents were absent. And I just thought, if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. And I just keep that in the forefront.
There's clearly a lot of different ways to give, whether that's through time or money, and we all have different motivations to be altruistic. But how do we know if we're giving to the right place or the right amount? That's after the break.
This is Michael J. Fox. With your support, we can end Parkinson's once and for all. Get involved at michaeljfox.org. The Michael J. Fox Foundation. Here until Parkinson's isn't.
So in part one of this series, we talked about altruism and what it means to be truly altruistic. And so when it comes to charity, do you believe that any charitable giving is good, even if you're just doing it for the tax write-off? Or because, social media peer pressured you into doing it?
Yeah. That's such an interesting question. I've never been asked that before. I don't know. I think the charity's perspective, like, bring that guilt money.
I mean,
I don't care. I think you give however you give. If you wanted to give for the tax break, you know what? Go ahead and give. I don't.
right, because somebody's benefiting, right?
That's right. Something is better than nothing. I would like to think that even if people are giving for just the tax break, that underlying it is still an effort to try to help somebody else.
Right.
Because the tax break isn't dollar for dollar. So you still aren't getting all of that money back in the tax break.
Right.
So those of us who serve in the community will take it however we get it. And if you give out of guilt, that's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay with me.
You have written a lot about financial scams, and I guess how can we make sure that we're giving to a reputable charity?
Yeah. So right now there's a lot of need in Jamaica for people, and you get this email or a text message and you're like, your heart leads. But I need you to lead from your heart and your head. So before you give to anybody, any charity, please check it out, because you want your money to be used well, and you don't want it to fund a scammer, because that emboldens them to cheat other people. And so if you're not sure how to do this, the Federal Trade Commission, if you go to ftc.gov, it has a tip sheet on how to check out a charity. You can go to the BBB, which stands for Better Business Bureau, Wise Giving Alliance Online, and they have a way for you to check out charities. And then Charity Watch also sort of rates charities and gives you an idea of how, if they're legitimate. So I just, listen, we've talked a lot about giving, and maybe people are like, yeah, that's me now, I'm going to go. But please take time to make sure that the charity is legitimate. Don't answer any email, text message, anything you see online. Shove that to the side. Go directly to the source before you give in those ways. Even if some friends come at you, just say, that's a good idea. Let me check that out and give, and actually follow through, right? But I think it is important as givers that you make sure that you are giving to legitimate charities, because you damage legitimate charities, right?
Yeah,
if you don't take that time. And also, you want to be sure that the charity is in the position to do what they need to do. Like, you might have someone saying, I'm going to help people in Jamaica. They ain't never help nobody in Jamaica. They don't know how to get anything to Jamaica, but their heart is there, but they don't have the infrastructure.
Well, actually, so yeah, on that note, what about GoFundMes? There are a lot of GoFundMes, or somebody's like, I have a relative, here in this country, like, in this disaster, they could use all the help. I mean, what about that?
I'm of two minds with those campaigns, right?
Okay.
Now, GoFundMe says they do a lot to check out and make sure people are legitimate. And I've done columns on that, and it does seem like they have a really robust system to make sure that when you give to a campaign, the person is actually raising for the people that they talk about. I think some people are too quick to go to GoFundMe when they haven't utilized other avenues. But if you see a campaign on one of those platforms and you've checked it out and it's legitimate and it's in your heart to give, then sure. Because sometimes things pop up that you weren't thinking about. And this happened recently with Jamaica, right? One of my friends is helping someone else collect clothing and toiletries and things like that. And so we're going, okay, that's not part of our regular giving, but there's a need that has arisen right now. And so when you come up with your charitable budget, you might actually set aside some funds for things that come up that is not part of your regular giving plan, because there are times when people coming at you and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel overwhelmed. But now,
because once you start,
that's right.
Once you start, everyone knows.
That's right.
They come for you. They really do.
That's right. And so if you've got a plan, you can say, well, you know what? These are the charities I give to, and this is not part of my charitable plan. And that way, when people keep coming at you, you can say no and not feel guilty or be guilted into giving when you already have a giving plan.
Such great advice. So practical. I mean, This is your bread and butter. Planning and budgeting. You're like, guys, do that with your finances, do that with your time. Because if you have the time,
You just need to plan it and stick with it.
That's right.
And
If you're going to be serving in your community, you want to live up to those obligations. I mean, we're coming at the end of the year. I would say that could be one of your resolutions for the new year. I'm going to have a giving plan. And we have certain charities that we give to every year. Public radio, we give to that. And that's on our giving sheet. I give back to my alma mater, University of Maryland at College Park. We, as I said, we tithe in our church, and I probably will be adding diabetes now to that giving plan. And so you can change it from year to year. Midway through, you say, you know what, I see this charity, they're doing great work. Why don't I add them to the plan? Listen, you guys, you have a budget. You have things that you do regularly. You give to Netflix and all like that. Add a charity,
That's
to
true.
that, right?
That's right.
We have things that we pay every month religiously, no matter what. Why not add that to your budget?
Yeah. Be intentional.
Be intentional about checking out in charities. Be intentional about giving. Be intentional about giving of your time. And I tell you, when you work in the community, when you work with people who are in need, when you work with people who are struggling, it creates a sense in your soul that I think makes you a better person.
That connection, it really is important to have that connection.
Right.
I'm so glad that you also donate to public radio. I'm a public radio alum. I guess you can see I'm actually wearing a radio shirt.
I totally believe in it. We give to all. In fact, in the DC area, there's like, 3 of you?
There's a bunch of stations. Yes,
right. And so we give to all of them. We're like,
right.
Because we couldn't choose, right? We feel like we're so bad. So we're like, okay, we're going to give all 3. And so
it's like I can't have a favorite child. All of you guys, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
No, I have a favorite child. Parents who say that, I don't believe it.
We'll save that for another episode.
All right, recap. As Michelle put it, there's always a way to give. Whatever you decide, do it intentionally and within your means. Build charitable giving into your budget and give from your abundance after covering your essentials. Options include regular tithing or percentage-based giving, and put it towards causes that mean something to you. If you can't swing it financially, give time as a valuable alternative. This means volunteering regularly, not just during the holidays. We're talking food kitchens, tutoring, and helping community organizations. And if you're a parent, include your kids in service projects. Lastly, give wisely by choosing reputable avenues. Vet charities before donating. You can do this by searching BBB Wise Giving Alliance and Charity Watch. Be cautious with unsolicited requests, verify GoFundMe campaigns, or stick with organizations that have the infrastructure to deliver aid. And yes, I know you're excited to give, but do it within your means. Create a personal giving plan so you can say yes or no without feeling overwhelmed. Try This is produced and hosted by me, Cristina Quinn, and Taylor White. Additional producing by Charla Freeland. The show's editors are Thomas Liu and Kanya Krit von Kitkajorn. Charla Freeland is also our video editor. Sound design and mixing is by Ted Muldoon and Sean Carter. Theme music is by Catherine Anderson. Show art is by Kati Huertas, with design editing from Christian Font and Greg Manifold. The things I learn on the show really do change how I move through the world, and I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what you took away from our course and how you make altruism a part of your everyday life. Record a voice memo or drop me a note at trythis@washpost.com. The email address again is trythis@washpost.com. Thanks for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode of Try This, don't miss listening to the very first episode of the season, including a special segment from the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research, which is dedicated to finding better treatments and a cure for Parkinson's. Find out about the impact the foundation is making, why it matters, and how you can be a part of it this giving season. Visit the Try This podcast page on WashingtonPost.com or wherever you get your podcasts to listen.